slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna
Gangoro Joshua. This is Group 11 of INS. We are presenting Proposition 18 on beliefs, which is the invisible filters. From the introduction part of it, we had come to a conclusion that culture is prone to shape communication. In other words, there's a relationship within culture and communication. And we also know that communication is also something which part of something which can also support culture or enhance it to a further directional in diversity. Talk about parts of culture changing quickly and parts change only over a span of generations. So culture generally changes, but it doesn't change at once wholly, but it changes over a span of time and only specifically in a span of generations. You can talk about some parts of it are necessary for people's survival, whereas some portions of it are detrimental to their way of life. So some parts of the culture can support life. Others are there for giving direction. And we can be sure that without culture, perhaps most of what that has happened within communities could have not gone to that far. And just as an onion's dry brown skin both conceals and reveals what is underneath and also protecting the most fleshy of a good onion, the same way outer layers of culture indirectly shows much about culture. So whatever we do, whether language, whether some practices of culture, they tell more and more of what is inside that culture. Talk about some beliefs. There are some misstatements which have been taken by some people, and they say that Filipino culture is paganism and therefore should therefore be discontinued. They also argue that Western culture is better than Filipino and therefore should be adopted. But some of the principles have come up to correct what these misstatements by saying no culture is better than another culture. They have also said that no culture is unfit to accept or accommodate the gospel. So as much as Filipino culture is perceived to be paganism or paganistic, it is therefore fit to accept the gospel. The same way they are paganistic, they can also accept the gospel. And therefore, if there should be success in bringing cultural change, that is only possible if it starts from within. If we want to change culture, therefore it will start from within it. And some information about behavioral level is that visible layers of the patterns of behavior in a culture, including artifacts used. We know the artifacts, we know the clothings, we know the monuments, we know all the sculptures, all those things, the artifacts. And therefore they are part of culture. Those are the visible layers of which include all that we have said. And forms of communication used, which we want to talk about the behavioral culture level. We want to talk about, for example, writing. We are prone to be writing from left to right, and that's what we have been taught of, or that's what we are. It's our behavior. And if at all we were taught to write from right to left, we could have adopted it, and it could be natural still. So they talk about an onion.
My name is Emma Kwamboka. I'll be talking about social authority level and experience level. So, social authority level, as you're given an example of an onion, there are many layers of an onion which merge into one another so that it is sometimes difficult to know where they separate. Much of our behaviors rest on social authority, that is, the approval of a group which may belong or wish to belong. So, for example, like as we say that when you go to Rome, you do what the Rome says. So, if you go to a new community or a new society, you're supposed to do what they do or act as they act. Like for example, in the British community, like we're supposed to use forks and knives and spoon to eat. So when you go to the British community, you're supposed to do as they do. So patterns and standards are accepted in throughout the society, but by common consent and are enforced by social pleasure. Sorry. So those who do not act as the society acts, they are considered as outsiders, and they are maybe subjected to correction by kind of social sanction. So if they continue like not acting the way they act, or they're culturally inappropriate, you are taken under people who are not serious. So yeah, the experience level, it is under the layer of social authority. The collective experience of a group is history, which is powerfully shapes current culture. Like, for example, the Armenians and the Turks come from the same part of Asia, but they have different cultures. They have sharply different experiences as people, and that history lies underneath the ultimate authority, and each group strongly holds. Even as experiences shape societies, they shape individuals. When there has been emotional involvement, seeing, feeling, it is useless to say that remembered experience did not happen, or that it is not the way you think it is. Personal experience is powerful, and argument will not change, and individuals' perception of it. It is essentially emotional, so rational discussion does title to alter beliefs based on the experience.
We're talking about the core of culture. So in here, we are told about the example of an onion, whereby even though you peel off its leaf, the core will still be there, which means that the core shapes the leaves of the onion. In this incident, we're told about the culture that some values, let's say the mode of dressing, food, they're shaped by the culture itself. This, let's say, these modes or these ways of life may be developed from the culture explanation or what it experiences. We also talked about that when you're going to a new culture, it's important to understand the culture itself when delivering a message. For instance, if you go to a certain culture and deliver a message without understanding the culture itself, the message may be considered inappropriate, and also the people may have antagonistic experience to the messenger. For instance, we give an example of a preacher who went to preach to a certain people, and the people valued public invitation as the way of people receiving Christ. But when the preacher came to that church, he ignored that and said that he only valued Christians only. And this message or this treatment angered the people and hated the message from the preacher and also the messenger. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Nicole Shako, and I'll be taking you through when the core of culture is learned and how can one be converted. So the core of a culture is not just a collection of beliefs and values, it is instead considered a consistent interpretation of life. So with that said, the core of culture, it mainly is not verbal, it is considered what everyone is supposed to know. So most of those beliefs are not verbalized. So it is said that 2/3 of an individual's knowledge on the core of culture is gained by the time the child is 7 years old. So to demonstrate that the core of culture is learned when someone is in their childhood, a woman was asked why she cannot love her children, and she replied that she is not able to love her children because that is what she saw during her upbringing. Her parents fought, her parents drank, her parents cursed, so that is what she has grown up to do. Yes, so how can anyone be converted? conversion mainly depends on personal experience. One cannot be told to convert, one needs to experience it on their own. And this is demonstrated by an example the author gives on Reverend John Hyde of India, who was unable to learn the language at that time, but the people still got converted because they experienced Christ, not because of his words, but because of how he lived. Thank you.